Okay, so let's talk about something incredibly frustrating. You had some kind of acute vestibular thing, vertigo, maybe neuritis, something that totally knocked you off your feet. The doctor probably said, hey, it'll get better. And yeah, the really bad part did. But that was months ago, right? And you're still left with this nagging, weird dizziness, especially when you're in a busy place. It feels like you're trying to solve a mystery, but you have zero clues. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's probably the very thing you typed into a search bar to find this. Your ear was supposed to have healed. The injury is in the past. So why are you still feeling this way? It's a totally fair question, and honestly, it's been a tough puzzle for a lot of people for a long, long time. And listen, if you're feeling this, you are so far from being alone. It's not just you. The research is pretty clear. Up to 50%, that's 1 out of every 2 people who go through something like vestibular neuritis, are still dealing with dizziness and unsteadiness way after the illness should have been over. So let me just say this right off the bat. What you're feeling is real. This is not all in your head in some dismissive way. It's very real. But the source of the problem, well, it's moved. The clues we're hunting for aren't at the original scene of the crime, your inner ear, anymore. They're actually in how your brain tried to deal with that initial injury. So, to crack this case, we have to start with the basics. We need to understand the very system that's been thrown out of whack. We're going to go searching for clues inside your body's own balance system to figure out what's really going on. Think of your balance like a 3-legged stool. It's really that simple. Your brain is constantly getting signals from 3 places: your inner ear, your eyes, and your body's sense of position. The feeling of your feet on the ground. For you to feel stable, all 3 of those legs have to be sending good, solid info. So what happens when one of those legs, the vestibular one, gets wobbly? Well, the brain has to adapt. And that adaptation process actually has a name. It's called vestibular compensation. And honestly, it's a brilliant, natural thing your brain does. It realizes the signals from the inner ear aren't trustworthy anymore, so it starts to lean more heavily on the other 2 legs of the stool, your eyes and your body, to keep you from falling over. In the beginning, this is exactly what's supposed to happen. It's a vital part of healing. And this right here is where so much of the frustration comes in. I bet a lot of you have been through it. You've had the tests, maybe the one with the water in your ears, the caloric testing, and the doctor comes back and says, well, everything looks okay, or at least not nearly bad enough to explain the dizziness you feel every day. So what gives? Well, science totally backs up your experience. This quote from a really important study in 2014 basically says it all. It shows there's a really poor connection between how the inner ear performs on those physical tests and the chronic symptoms people are actually living with. This tells us, without a doubt, we've been looking in the wrong place. The problem isn't the ear anymore. So this brings us to our #1 suspect. The real culprit isn't the old injury. It's a new, unhelpful habit that the brain has picked up, and it has everything to do with your eyes. Let me introduce you to the culprit. It's called visual dependence. Remember how the brain started leaning on the eyes for support when the ear was out of commission? Well, for some people, that temporary crutch became a permanent strategy. The brain just never stopped over-relying on vision. It gets to a point where it trusts what your eyes see way too much, even when that visual information is chaotic or just plain wrong. And this just perfectly explains why you might feel totally fine sitting in a quiet, still room, but the minute you walk into a grocery store, you feel awful. All those long aisles, the checkerboard floors, people moving around, it is a massive flood of visual data. And your visually dependent brain is trying to use all of it to keep you balanced, and it just gets overwhelmed. The whole system just kind of crashes. Okay, so saying this is one thing, but how do you actually prove it's happening? You can't just hook up a machine to the brain and ask it. Well, this is the cool part. A group of scientists came up with a really clever experiment to make this invisible problem totally visible. They figured out a way to catch the culprit red-handed. And this is it. It's called the rod and disc test. Now, it might look pretty simple, but it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's specifically designed to put your brain's internal sense of gravity in a head-to-head battle with distracting visual information. And by doing that, researchers can measure exactly how much your brain is being fooled by what you see. So here's how it goes. You sit in a completely dark room and you look at a glowing line, a rod. Your only job is to adjust it until it looks perfectly straight up and down. Sounds easy, right? But then the dots in the background start to spin. This creates this really powerful, confusing visual motion, and that's the real test. Is your brain going to trust its own internal sense of up and down, or is it going to get tricked by those spinning dots? And here, Here is the smoking gun. Just look at these results. On average, people with no dizziness issues, the healthy controls, they were only off by about 3.5 degrees. But the patients with high levels of chronic dizziness, they were off by an average of 6.35 degrees. That is nearly double. This is the hard evidence. Their brains were trusting the spinning visual information way, way more than their own internal sense of what was upright. So, the mystery is pretty much solved. That dizziness that just won't go away, that awful feeling you get in busy places, it's not because your ear is still broken. It's a direct result of your brain developing this over-reliance on your eyes, a coping strategy that unfortunately has completely backfired. Okay, so we've found the culprit. We know what the problem is. But honestly, that's just the first half. The most important part is what we do now. Because once you understand the problem, you can finally see a clear path to actually fixing it. And you know, the same researchers who figured this all out also pointed right to the solution. This isn't a life sentence. This visual dependence, it can be modified. It can be changed. You can use specific rehabilitation and desensitization techniques. There is a way out of this. And this is what I really want you to take away from all this. You do not have to just grit your teeth and live with this feeling forever. Through a specific kind of physical therapy, vestibular rehabilitation, you can literally retrain your brain. The exercises are designed to slowly teach your brain to not freak out from all that visual information and to start trusting the whole team again, the ears, the eyes, and the body, all working together. So let's just quickly put all the pieces together. That dizziness that hangs around after an inner ear issue, it's often because of a real, measurable condition called visual dependence. That's why busy places like malls and grocery stores feel so awful. But the most important piece of all, it's not permanent. It can be treated and improved with the right kind of therapy. So now you know the what and the why, and the final question is really for you. Because now, armed with this information, you can go have a much better, much more informed conversation with your doctor or vestibular therapist. You know now that the goal isn't just to keep checking your ears over and over. The goal is to retrain your brain.